Hello, welcome. My name is Andrew Fish, and this is my painting studio in Somerville, Massachusetts. I am giving you this virtual studio visit because I will be out of town in the month of February when we're supposed to be meeting online. And I'll tell you where I am when we meet. The front part of the studio is mostly storage. You can see the storage racks and a lot of the older paintings. And then we come into this space over here, which is the main working space. And I've hung up several paintings to look at today. These are part of an exhibition that I'm doing with 1 Mile Gallery out of Kingston, New York. And the work can also be viewed online at Artsy. I will show you more details about the paintings in a minute, but I thought I'd give you a kind of an overview of the whole studio space. This area over here is mostly tools, and this is my palette table. This is one of the detail palettes, so I'll use blank palettes to mix up larger amounts of paint. And then when I get down into the details of the work, I switch to these detail palettes. You can see a lot of the different brushes that I use, that I'm interested in. I've been really into these pointed filberts recently. And here you can see some of the pigments. And there's more paint down here, more of the bulk paint. And rollers, pattern rollers, and stamps, and different tools to use. In this space over here, we have these nice big windows. I have a desk set up where I do my remote teaching, as well as online events. And that's the space. Let's look at the work. I'll start the studio tour with a view through the window. There's this beautiful little park across the street that provides levity and inspiration throughout the day. And as we get into the space, I'll show you some of the paintings. This first painting here is titled Fall Fashion, and will be included in the Massar auction this year. That should open up sometime in the early spring. Give you a sense of the details. You can see how the patterning works, some of the texture. Move on to this seascape painting with these 3 figures. 2 of them are looking out into the horizon, having a conversation. This painting was started earlier in the year, and I could not resolve the picture for several months, and then I went to visit our good friend Wilhelm Neusser's exhibition at Abigail Ogilvy Gallery. I was very inspired by the way he handled the fence in his fence paintings. And it's a motif that I've worked with before, but had this renewed excitement about it after seeing his paintings. So I was able to come back in and rework this fence to a satisfactory place. A lot of my paintings use different layers of color and form to build up an image, and within those layers the paint application varies from being thick and impasto in style to being thin and non-existent in some areas, where the raw linen comes through and becomes part of the color and the texture of the work. This is another painting that took a while to resolve. I started this painting a couple of years ago. There was a second figure in it when I first made it, and I realized that that second figure wasn't helping the painting at all. Now, this painting is titled Alone by Candlelight, and I think it's that aloneness that is important for this image. The woman here is daydreaming. It's helpful that she's alone when she daydreams. And our attention and her distraction might be a result of this burning candle. This is a large painting called NYC Subway, which I made this year. I like this motif because it's somewhat of a love letter to the city, but it's also indicative of the time we live in, where these guys are coming up out of the train station and they're wearing masks because we're in a pandemic. I made a giclée print out of this painting with a company in Concord, Massachusetts called Pitch Black. And they photographed this painting with a high resolution camera and balanced all the color and created a print out of it that I was really pleased with. And it's renewed my faith and interest in the idea of creating giclée prints of paintings. This painting is based on a photograph I took when I was visiting the Bay Area last January of 2020, just before the pandemic, a couple months before the pandemic. This is called Pacific Sunset. This painting is from a series I've been working on about public displays of affection. So I call this a PDA painting. I'm interested in the idea of public displays of affection being absent from the landscape these days, since people are masked up and not spending time at cafes and hanging over each other like in this picture. This painting is titled Art Dealer, and it's the second version of this motif that I worked on in 2020. It's based on a photograph of a friend of mine who's an art dealer in Beijing, China. This one is on panel and really utilizes the idea of stenciling and masking. This large painting is called Outlook. The title has a few different meanings, but it pays homage to Caspar David Friedrich's motif of a similar psychological effect. A lone figure looking out into a landscape. See some of the details in this picture. This painting is part of an ongoing series called Student Painters, based on photographs of students of mine working on their paintings. And of course, There's a lot of abstraction happening, a lot of artistic liberty with what the painting is and what the figure is actually making on the easel. That's part of the fun of these pictures. I think I was inspired also to work on this series this year because I wasn't spending time with my students in the studio. So I visited them virtually in this way. This painting was done in the summer. It's meant to be viewed as a diptych, and it's an allegory about human folly. The panel on the left shows a figure standing in water with a wave that has just gone past them. But in front of him is this giant wave that's just cresting now, so we know it's about to crash into this figure. And then in the second panel, we see that the wave is crashing onto the figure. I like the idea that these panels can be reversed, and this could be the first painting that would be on the left, seeing the figure get hit by a wave. And then the second panel might even feel like relief now that the figure is still standing and the wave is washing past him. But of course, there's another big wave that's coming. I used a pattern roller on this picture, and you can see it coming through here. I do a thing that's called figure ground reversal, where the background becomes the foreground. And you can see down here what the actual pattern looks like. It's a parrot. But here, it was a complete accident, but I love the way this lined up. The patterning on the body of this man looks like a tribal tattoo. And his long neck and this mopey looking face with this big myopic eye, a little black hat, maybe it's hair. Either way, I thought that was a nice surprise when that figure came out that way. And the parrot patterning is in here as well, but it doesn't really become integral to the figure, only the trunks of our swimmer. And the last painting I want to show you here is this escalator painting. It's from the PDA series as well. It's about these two lovers and their relationship. I also like the allegorical nature of this painting and the geometric nature of it as well. But it reminds me of a religious painting, like something you see in a Byzantine altar, or maybe a Duccio painting. So that's a tour of the studio. Thank you so much for visiting, and I look forward to having a conversation with you and answering any questions you have.